Hi, Solo Sue here. I wanted to do a recap of my Cabo San Lucas day. We arrived really early in the morning. I was awoken at about 6 a.m. from engine noise, and it was very loud in here. So it is currently about a little after 6. We are coming into Cabo San Lucas. And this is the kind of noise we have. And it's vibrating the bulkhead. And I don't know if something's wrong or if this is normal, but it doesn't sound very good, does it? If this is normal and you're going to be staying on deck 2 of the Panorama, you might want to bring some really good earplugs. And it's sort of, one of the things you should keep in mind if you're looking at being on one of the lower floors, especially in the forward of the ship, is that you're going to hear things like the anchor. You may hear engine noise as well, which I did. This is the first time it's woken me up, but it's also the earliest we've come into a port. I think I've been awake every other day when we've come into port, and that's probably why. Hi, Solo Sue here. I just wanted to give you a chance to hear the sound of the engines that you can hear when they start them up from this cabin. Hopefully you can hear that. It's giving a slight vibration throughout the cabin, of course, and a medium noise. And so it's not too bad usually. It was much worse when they were coming into port, and that was early this morning. And but it's something to keep in mind if you're going to be probably anywhere on deck 2 on this ship. It's funny because you can actually see it vibrating the water on my table. Hold on. See, there's the vibration. That's the level of vibration you're getting. It's moving the water that much. So, I mean, it's not, tempest in a teapot or anything, but it is enough that it might bother some people. So it's just sort of something to keep in mind when you're looking at, cabins that are especially forward and low. So deck 2, deck 1 certainly must have even more, because I believe there's cabins on deck 1 as well. And so it's going to be mostly the forward cabins on this ship, I suspect. Although if you've sailed on some of the lower floor cabins on, throughout the rest of the ship, I'd love to hear about it. And this is Solo Sue signing off. We were there, well, technically from around 6:30 in the morning to the last water taxi was leaving at 1 p.m. from the dock. And so you had to either be on that or you would be having a very bad day. So the way they've done this is they had you go, there was a place, I think it was in the aft of the ship on deck 5, where you had to go and you had to pick up your tender ticket. And it would give you a time zone or a number and a zone when you were going to be allowed to go to the tenders. And then they were calling the numbers for all the tender groups throughout the morning, starting at like 6:30. And, the announcements weren't really a problem. That would not have been enough to wake me up, because usually the announcements are just in the hallways and they're not something that gets broadcast in the actual cabin unless there's some kind of emergency. Now, last night we had an emergency and they broadcast something in all the cabins in the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. or something. And, it turned out to be smoke in an incinerator room, but they did not find a fire, so they called off the emergency. But that was rather interesting to hear that in the middle of the night. So I waited until all of the tenders had been called, because I didn't want to get in the way of anyone who was trying to do a shore excursion or anything. And I just went out briefly to shop, just kind of walked around the immediate area, the pier, and took a look at things and stuff. And they do have, of course, a lot of what they're selling is just the basic tourist t-shirts and all that stuff that you see at every port. But, you know, they also have, they have a lot of bars. They have Senior Frogs, of course, he's everywhere. But they also have a lot of very small bars and little restaurants and such. And, you know, people stop and they have drinks there, and they have maybe tacos and that sort of thing. And then there's also the pharmacies, which I know are very popular. Now, for the pharmacies, you will get, you know, they have some kind of list usually in the window advertising. Oh, let's see, what was it? Painkillers, of course, are very popular. I think there were muscle relaxants that were available. There were acne medicines. There were, one of the things that they mentioned was like a Prilosec, which is, of course, over the counter in the US. And, the other thing they have a lot of is antibiotics. But what you can do, though, is if you know what you want, you can go, you know, there's usually multiple pharmacies, and you can go between them and you can find out how much they'll charge. And their prices can vary quite a bit depending on which one you ask. So it is good to sort of comparison shop when they're looking at something like that, which would be a commodity. This is us heading away from the panorama and heading into Cabo. And you can see really well how the ship looks from this tender. I wanted to sort of keep this footage in here because it really does look fabulous against that sky, especially as we get further away from the ship and can see more of it inside of the frame. And then as we pull away, we actually went around the front of her before we headed towards shore. And so you really get a sense of what she's like from the ocean, and you don't get to do that very often. At most, usually you see her docked in port someplace, not so much from the ocean. And I just thought she looked so nice there with the clouds behind her and the birds flying around and the one landing right there on the front. So yeah, I hope you enjoy seeing her the way I enjoyed it, because I thought she looked very nice in these pictures. And it's always nice when you can get something beautiful of the ship as you're tendering into port. So the tender took a while. You know, it's probably a good 20-minute or so at least boat ride. But then you come into the harbor and you see these interesting crafts that are here. And then I think we just spun this boat here, and it left us off at the dock, which let you get right up into the shopping area immediately, of course, where there are lots of vendors who would really like to help you buy everything. They're very generous that way. But as I said, it helps to sort of price compare. I also found this guy hanging out, just chilling, and I thought I'd take a picture of him and show you him, because he was just a very chill pelican. And so I did my shopping and got on the tenders and came back to the ship. And from there, it was just a matter of getting off the tender and onto the ship, and away we go, back into the air conditioning, which is, of course, always appreciated after you've been in the hot sun, even if it is on the ocean. And so after this, we're going back to the narration I was doing after formal night dinner, and of course the actual dinner is on a separate video that I'll link here. So that was Cabo. I came back, probably within an hour and a half, 2 hours. I've been to Cabo several times before, and since I couldn't do the property tour that I wanted to do, I figured, there wasn't much time to do a whole lot else, and I didn't feel like, just sitting in a bar drinking. Can do that here if I want to, in air conditioning. But anyway, tonight there is a couple of shows and a comedian, and I'm gonna look through the program and decide which one I want to do. I got all formal dressed and everything. I may as well go out there and enjoy it, right? Besides, tomorrow's a sea day, and then we have to go home. And that will end my first cruise since December of 2019, and I'm not ready for it to end, okay? Solo Sue signing off. I did end up going to see Soulbound, and it was quite good. You can see here by the sets pictures I got that this is sort of a spooky set, and it had sort of a feel almost of a graveyard for part of it, probably from these guys. But yeah, it was a good show, and I recommend going to see the shows. This is unfortunately the only show I did get to see on my trip. The rest of the days were just booked solid with various things that I was doing, so that's the way that works out sometimes. We have one more sea day to talk about, and then this will be the end of the cruise. Unfortunately, it's going to be hard to leave this ship. This is the Cabo Arch, if you're not familiar, and we got to see it on our sail away, and so I thought I'd leave that as our parting image as we go. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you for the next one.